Mr. Sarioli's son, Cameron, graduated last year and studied business at Saints. Thank you for lending your expertise and insight. Ladies and gentlemen, these are esteemed judges of the 2019 Saints Dragons Lair.
What's up?
Now, let's get down to business, shall we? The first presenter, Lawson Graham, grade 10. From his teachers, he's known as quiet, but you can see he runs around chasing stuff. He's often compared to Doug from Up, supposedly. According to his business teachers, he only works at one speed, 100 miles an hour. His business idea is really going to help him break that customary Canadian cultural problem of patiently waiting. Ladies and gentlemen, Lawson Graham.
Should my PowerPoint? Excuse me. Oh, perfect. Good evening, dragons. In an average human lifespan, we spend about 6 months of our lives waiting in lines like these. But my question is why? Why do we waste our time when we could instead skip the line? Introducing InLine, the best way to earn discounts to your favorite shops and stores while still skipping the line using InLine's virtual online queue. Now, let's take a look at FastPass and Nexus, both of which allow you to skip their respective lineups. As for Disney's FastPass, it's at amusement parks where you can skip lineups to many different rides. And as for Nexus, it's at the border. Now, imagine these softwares, but for any lineup. That is the power of InLine. Now, how exactly does InLine work specifically? Well, InLine is a platform app that connects premium users with premium businesses. So how it mainly works is, take for example, Nexus. All you have to do is just sign up and instantly you become a VIP that can skip any lineup and go to any restaurant, business, restaurant, sneaker lineup, nightclub, sale, or show. You see, all you have to do is sign up, pick your preferred lineup, whether it be based on brand, type, or location, and be ready to be escorted right in the door. There we go. Now, let's take a look at some of the competitors in the space. You see, all of these competitors have one fatal flaw. They're all new businesses using old technologies. You see, they all utilize someone actually waiting in line for you. With InLine, we plan to cut out the middleman. We plan to maximize scalability and minimize costs as we don't actually have to pay the person waiting in line. We plan to do it a different way. We plan to do it in a way that creates value for all parties. Now, what's in it for each player? Well, as for the users of InLine, they will be able to, for a minimum fee, they will be able to skip any lineup and earn discounts whilst doing it. As for the businesses, they will gain access to a massive database of premium users that they can then market to and fill their stores on off nights. And finally, as for InLine, we will have the control of this growing massive database of highly desirable users. With this database, we can utilize this for the future of InLine and market to them for potential advertisements. Now, how will we actually grow the InLine user base? Primarily, through customer referral advertising. Now, what this means in its simplest form is effectively, we will pay businesses to refer their users to InLine. Specifically, this will be at a rate of, for every 70 users that are actually referred to InLine, each business will receive $500. Next up, we will market on Instagram and Facebook in order to play to the millennials. The millennials are the desired market for any businesses. And so, how we will actually play to these millennials is we will market through 3 different pillars: accessibility, convenience, and status. And finally, we will grow our user base through organic users through word of mouth. You see, what drives this is hype. With InLine, with hype building up around us, anyone will want to skip the line to get an edge over their friends or other people waiting in lineups. And so, we will be able to quickly gain organic users that cost us no money at all. Now, who will actually utilize the InLine app? Well, let's meet Andrew Baker. Andrew Baker is a young, semi-professional basketball player that would rather die than be seen in a washed-up pair of Jordans or KDs. But you see, Andrew finds that he often has a problem as he has to make it to many different practices or games and often struggles to line up for the shoe stores that he's been dying to get. And so, utilizing InLine, Andrew can skip these lineups and still be able to be punctual and make it to every practice or game he needs to be at. Next, we'll meet Nick Granger. Nick Granger is a young, successful, small business owner that often struggles to woo clients and investors. Utilizing the InLine app, Nick will be able to skip some of the biggest lines in town and thus show that he has status and that he is well connected in the community, thus impressing his potential investors or clients and secure that sale or investment he's been dying to get. And so finally, let's meet Andrea Hall. Andrea Hall works hard from 9 to 5 every day, all week, looking forward to Saturday nights. Saturday nights, she goes out with her girlfriends to some of the best nightclubs in town. But you see, Andrea's found that she often spends most of her time outside of the nightclubs waiting in line as opposed to inside partying with her friends. And so, utilizing the InLine app, Andrea can skip the line and thus she can spend her time doing what she loves, which is partying with her girlfriends. Sorry, this is not really working. Anyway, now let's talk strategy. As you can see, in our pre-launch stages of the app, we will be releasing in Vancouver mainly to restaurants. At this point, we're in beta stages. All we are doing is proving that the app can actually work in a real-life model. By year 1, we will have our app fully tested out and proven that it can actually work, and we will head to Los Angeles, alongside diversifying into the niche of nightclubs. Now, you might ask, why Los Angeles? Well, specifically because Los Angeles has one of the biggest nightlifes in all of the US. And so it seems like a no-brainer to head right there if we're trying to target the niche of nightclubs. Next, on to year 2. Once we have a strong user base in nightclubs and restaurants in both Los Angeles and Vancouver, we will head straight to Miami and New York, alongside diversifying again into product launches. As we pick up users there and we continue to grow, eventually we will hit year 3, where we will hit Las Vegas and New Orleans, where all of these cities are incredibly filled with many different possible users and potential businesses to partner with. Now, at this point, I think you all are wondering one main thing. When is he gonna show me the money? And to that I say, right now. As I said previously, when taking a look at the pre-launch phases, we are mainly trying to beta test and prototype our app. And so, at that point in our app's life, we will have approximately 500 VIPs and only 5 businesses. But you see, as our app is fully proven out, we will hit the end of year 1, where we will be at 25,000 users, alongside 100 businesses working with us. Now, if we take a look at our annual advertisement cost, we can maybe wonder how we get there. And so, the user acquisition cost up on the screen is basically how much it costs to secure one user and retain them for the rest of InLine's life. And so, if you multiply 25,000 by the $8.50 average user acquisition cost, you can hit the annual advertisement cost. And so, that all seems like a lot of costs, but there's always one good thing about users. Users bring in money. And so, if you take a look at our average revenue per user monthly, which is $3.50, we will easily be able to surpass the advertisement cost and hit a total annual revenue of $504,000 by year 1. Now, moving on to year 2, we plan to double both our VIPs and our businesses. But you see, our user acquisition cost actually drops. Now, you might be wondering why that is. Going back to those organic users that we are generating, it's all from hype, as we don't have to pay for when people refer their friends to the app. And so, with a dropping user acquisition cost, we save over $40,000 in revenue, and still, that great thing, we're making over $1.5 million in revenue still. And finally, at year 3, we plan to increase our user base by 30,000 users, whilst also increasing our number of businesses by 100. Again, this user acquisition cost drops as our hype continues to build. However, you may see that our advertisement cost actually goes up. The main reason for this is that we're actually generating 5,000 more users than years previous, And that is the main justification for why our advertisement goes up so much. But finally, again, back to that huge, great thing about users, we're making $3 million at this stage. Now, I think you all can agree with me at this point when I say this is really a great business. But now, where is this great business going to go from here? Well, at this point in InLine's life, we can diversify. We can hit more verticals. We can go to more cities. But most importantly, we can turn into more services. Take, for example, Uber. I don't know about you guys, but I don't really see what a taxi service has to do with a food delivery service. But Uber sure did, and because they had a huge database of users willing to pay for their products, they were actually able to add another stream of revenue and profit into their business model. With InLine, we follow the same type idea where we're building a community of users. And so we will be able to easily diversify into many other different services. Now, in summary, I think it's obvious that we can see that we don't have to spend 6 months of our lives waiting in line. But I just have one simple question for you all. If we're not spending these 6 months of our lives waiting in line, then what are you waiting for?
Sure, I can go first. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
And I have to say, I mean, what are you waiting for? That was an amazing way to end. So like your branding and everything like that is great. And the presentation in the whole was very well done. So I do have a couple questions for you. I don't know much about this space. I'm on more the enterprise side. So some of the questions I have are more related to the business model for the companies. So how are you going to incentivize companies to get onto your app?
Yeah, no. The main way that we're kind of bringing businesses in is the idea that with this community that we're generating of InLine users, they're all premium users that are willing to pay effectively a luxury cost in skipping the line. And so these businesses can then market to our users and bring them in and upsell them and cross-sell them, thus basically incentivizing them as they can get better users coming into their stores and whatnot.
How are you going to make money off of the companies?
The companies are more a means to an end, as they are effectively offering the ability to skip the line. We're mainly focusing on making money off the users through we have 2 different ways that we're actually making the annual or the monthly fee of $3.50. It's a subscription cost of $2.99 per month, alongside just for a lowball estimate, we put if each user uses the app once at 50 cents for each line skip a month, then that's how we would get our revenue stream.
Yeah, because I can see even once you start to expand, so there's 2 parts to this. Once you start to expand and you have a lot of companies on your app,
Yeah.
right? And they have competitors and everyone's using this InLine. You want certain companies to be really engaged with your app. So I bet you could come up with a business model that would allow you to actually take advantage of that and help them get a competitive advantage over their competitors as well. So look at that in terms of something that you could leverage. But on top of that, what happens when your company is so popular? So we're looking at, say, year 4, year 5, and you're rocking, everything's fantastic. But now InLine has turned into the line.
Yeah.
So how do you avoid lineups? And would you look to incentivize people to get even ahead of that? How would you get to that? I mean, that's looking way down. I'm just thinking vision here. What would you think about that?
Yeah, no, that was one of the main kind of roadblocks I came into. And so the way I kind of solved that is the price of the line, if you've ever used Uber before, you know how like where you are and the time of day it is and how busy it is determinant of the price. So we're basically going to, depending on what time of night it is, what kind of restaurant it is, let's say, that will actually determine the pricing of the app,
Yeah.
and thus also how many users are actually wanting to skip that line, trying to basically keep it above the bar to where it's a shorter lineup than the regular lineup and it's a luxury cost.
I do have more questions, but if you guys want to jump in,
Maybe
I
we
could go
should,
on
'cause
for-
we-
honestly, this is awesome. I really like it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We should
Well
probably
done.
give everyone
Yeah.
a go, because we obviously have a few more to go through. I've got a question about just the logistical management of it at the business side.
Okay.
So I'm a business. I've determined that this is the right fit for my company. I want to help manage my line. Let's take maybe a Medina or something, like a lunch spot where there's often a lineup right out the door in the day.
Okay.
Do people show up at the restaurant and then stand in the line, and then like a VIP host comes around and calls your name when it's your time, or like logistically, physically, how does it work when you show up?
Well, it's more like a virtual queue. So on one of my slides I showed, it's effectively it's almost like a timer on your phone that's like mathematically decided based on like when the next seats are coming up. So it's like a VIP lineup that's not actually there, but so it's like a spot in a queue. So you can show up when your basically seat is ready at the place, and thus you don't have to stand up in the line, and you're also in a separate VIP line, but it's just you're not actually standing there.
Even if you showed up ahead of when your phone says you're ready.
I guess at that point you would just kind of pass the time you could stand in line, I guess. It's more
In the VIP lineup, though.
yeah, for sure.
Well, that's my question.
I guess I'm looking at, you're saying $3.50 a month, $3.50 a month,
Yeah.
and this is going to be a luxury item?
Yeah, well, the 350 is effectively the lowest possible estimate I could give. So there's incredible upside, but you couldn't really see a lower down estimate of pricing per month for like revenue. So I was just kind of trying to get it as low as possible, so it's just complete upside from there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, because what I'm aiming at is I think you're too low.
Yeah, go higher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I think if people will, if the price is too low, they won't see the value in it.
Okay, yeah.
So I would suggest you could, again, you got to do some research on it,
Mhm.
but I really think you can move that price up. Because
Okay.
that's time is money, and people will pay.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in like luxury, like going to the high-end restaurants and things like that, you're gonna have people that will pay a lot of money to jump a line.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, my first comment is just, this is my first time here, and that presentation blew me out of the water. That was fantastic. So,
Thank you so much.
no, it's really impressive. And Steve knows a lot about luxury, positioning luxury items, so take that to heart. My question is more around the research that you've done on adoption rates and like you estimated 25,000 in the first year, and I think I can't remember the second year, 50,000, I think, and then 80,000.
Yeah.
So was that just, tell me how you arrived at those numbers.
Well, those are mostly ballpark estimates for users, but the way at which I arrived at like the advertisement for those users and like the cost for that, so that I could kind of make sure that that cost was still in budget, was through the user acquisition cost that I had. So with the user acquisition cost basically meaning that I get one user for every 850, I was able to basically estimate a number of users that was still well within the budget, that still got the job done in terms of revenue and whatnot, and so it was like realistic numbers.
And was that based on precedents that you'd seen from adoption from other apps or other industries?
I looked at precedents from two of my competitors, which was Line Angel and InLine for You, and they had around the same adoption rates, but just a slightly less, as they were utilizing kind of separate or like a way in which to do it. They were using an actual man standing in line for you, or man or woman. So yeah, but I kind of modeled off of those types of numbers.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you so much again for listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our next competitor, probably our shortest competitor, Max Mache. For those of you that don't know him, he's very tall, so that was a joke.